The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
This episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Bob's. Bob's is a Columbia-based retailer of over 100 Black-owned products from 20 Black-owned businesses. Bob's offers a wide range of items from household cleaning, cosmetics, and everything in between. With every visit to Bob's, you support Black-owned businesses, giving them the opportunity to grow and establish connections with our community. Bob's is located inside the Noma warehouse at 2222 Sumter Street in Columbia, South Carolina. Visit their website, weshopbobs.com for in-store pickup or to find out more. Bob's can also be found via social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at weshopbobs. When you stop by, tell them the Hilltop Glove sent you. Bob's brings quality Black brands to the Columbia community. The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Red Rooster Sports Bar and Grill. Red Rooster is your neighborhood bar and grill serving the best wings, burgers, and baskets in the Met.
Like the amazing food, the bar is always on tap, and there's plenty of screens to watch the big game. Red Rooster is the Midland's premier meetup spot for local car and bike clubs, fraternities, and sororities.
Staff is dedicated to accommodating all kinds of parties and events. If you're looking to catch a game, have a bite, and a drink, look no further than the Red Rooster.
Red Rooster is located at 7500 Wilson Boulevard, Columbia, South Carolina. For more information, visit redroostersportsbar.com or visit them on Facebook and Instagram at Red Rooster Sports Bar. Go where the winners go.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
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 Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast, where Skip and DJ and What interview guests and discuss topics such as business, current events, and pop culture. The motivational podcast for the hip-hop millennial. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday to everybody. This is the Hilltop Glove Podcast. I am DJ and What, and I have the entire cast of characters with me today. I have Skip. Yep. Got Mike. Got Miss Tamaya. And today, this is our... So they can hear you. Hey, there we go. This is actually our season recap. We had an excellent season of recording different interviews and having guests up for conversations on a myriad of topics, just so that we could achieve the point of our podcast, our mission statement, which is to try to give some kind of assistance to adulting for us millennials as we quote unquote grow up and expand in our roles and responsibilities throughout life. But today this is our relaxed podcast. We actually get to talk to each other about things that we
who's
like.
making that noise? It's like some sweeping in the background.
No, I was about to.
Wait, my fault, y'all. That was my sweeping. My fault.
Okay.
I was up here cleaning off my desk. I can't help it, man. I can't help it.
Somebody snorting a line on here.
I'm a little OCD, man. I'm a little OCD right now. I was up here cleaning while I'm up here working. I saw something I need to clean up. My fault.
That's all right. That's all right.
Sleeping. That's funny. Oh, that's funny. But as you see, y'all, we were pretty relaxed today. We were chilling, but we are going to talk about some of our favorite conversations that we've had, things that we've learned from doing this podcast this year, how we've gotten through the year, and what we look forward to for next season. Because we are going to be expanding in the sense of doing things in a little different ways, changing up our little marketing, etc. But this has been an excellent project, in my opinion. I've enjoyed it.
It's been a blast. This has been great.
Come on.
I've been doing it. You're doing it well.
Right? Especially for what we were dealing with and what we're currently still dealing with. But it's been nice to have something to get your mind off of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly.
And, for everybody out there, I think all of us have experienced in sound recording to some degree, but this is the first podcast I've ever produced on. I think, Kev, you've done some stuff for other people?
I've done a little bit of stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
a little bit.
This is my second podcast that I've done. The first I've done this before, but I haven't done it in this kind of format where you know what I mean? Like when I was doing before, it was a student podcast. It was something I was doing in a way to get out some information in an educational way, but it had no real specific scope. If you would say this one has a specific scope, and I'm telling you, man, it's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Polished in the sense of what we want to do for it being our first year. We have pretty good chemistry too, I would say. So I think we worked this out well.
I'd really like having 4 hosts that we can swap out on too, because sometimes we do it based on who the guest is going to be and who has a connection to them, and sometimes we just do it on availability. But it does give like a varied experience, like it's not not just the same people every weekend.
You know what we feel like? I'm gonna tease, but we're like 60 minutes for the millennials because you don't know who you gonna get that weekend.
For all you Zoomers out there, 60 Minutes was a TV show that used to come on in the evenings, and it would be like a news journal that would tell you all the detailed investigated items of the news. This was before fake news. This is back when we used to have. Although, actually, you know what? That's not true, because they did that. Was it sick? No, it's Dateline that did that thing with the truck. Yeah, the pickup truck where they blew the damn thing up.
Yeah. Man. They were bad for that.
They were. And they got caught like hell, too, because the fire department was watching them.
Come on.
If y'all don't remember this, there was this, I think it was a Ford truck. No, it was a GM truck. And they had this footage of it getting rear-ended and exploding. And everybody was like, oh, my God, it's a death trap, because they had put the gas tank outside of the frame. But they had made the gas tank like it was a beast. And so when they thought there was this problem and they set up to test it, and they did it several times and nothing happened. And they were like, well, crap, we don't have a story. So what they did is they took road flares and strapped them to the underside of the gas tank so that they knew the thing would blow up. And the fire department was there watching them and was like, what the hell are they doing? And then after the story broke, the fire department snitched on them. And then, of course, GM sued the hell out of them.
See what I'm saying? Yes.
But this is back when you could sue fake news, because they were actually a legitimate organization, not some guy in his woodshed.
That's true.
It has changed. You ain't lying. That's an interesting point you made right there, Mike, because I know people don't realize how easy it is to skew things based on, setting stories up. And with the information that we deal with nowadays, a lot of that stuff is that. It's all the time that. But like you said, it comes from, non-legitimate characters, so they can't be sued or touched in a law way.
If you do, what are you going to get from them? You're going to repo their trailer? Like what? What's there?
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not even worth the fight.
Right. You sue NBC or something, then you get some money. But
Yeah, man. But back on topic, man. We had a very interesting year of conversations, and I'll tell you what, man, because we had 17 full quote unquote episodes, even with some of them actually we had a little bonus episode. We rescheduled some, but we worked it around. And I just want to go around and ask you all, man, who did you all enjoy having a conversation with? Which one did you either listen back to? Because, we weren't on all of them with each other. What was one of your favorite episodes that we had this year? I know it's going to be hard.
That is kind of hard. I mean, I came in halfway, so,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know yours is going to be a little different. I know. Yeah, I know.
have to say the one that I was first featured on with LaShondra Wack, the
that was a very good.
That was a great episode. Yeah, I like that a lot.
I love that
was
episode.
My number one,
What was your favorite thing about that episode, Tamaya?
Just because, I get to talk, introducing you guys to her and then talking about a whole different lifestyle of things that we need to incorporate in our everyday lives, So I really enjoyed that. And I was literally like sitting right next to her as we were talking. So it wasn't like, how we're doing it now over the mic, literally like right next to each other. So I enjoyed that.
That's something I look forward to for next season too, being able to do some of these in person.
Yes.
We've actually.
Yeah, I don't know how much of our audience, of our Hilltop tribe, is aware of that, but usually we're all in different locations.
That's true.
Because of COVID. Because this is the year of crazy shit.
This is. Yes. This is what I'm dealing with. So yeah, we've been making sure to hold up to those protocols, but I mean, it's not that it's hard. It's just different because we've all grown up in a generation where we've had access to analog and digital. And so we know how to use both, but we analog creatures. We want to see people in the flesh and actually talk to them and stuff like that. It does help, I think, to bring a bit of it makes the conversation more genuine because it's hard to dart away from somebody when you have to look them directly in the eyes,
Right.
That's right. But I think we've done a masterful job of making sure that the conversations that we have had, that we bring that truthfulness out of our guests some of our guests, they've come with the fire. They come. I know one of my favorites was with Miss Sade Pugh. She came with the fire, and she wasn't playing about it, man. And I like that conversation, even though I wish that the audio was a little better. But other than that, man, she dropped some jewels on us, and she was fierce about her stance on things. Because like I said, she was running with the truth. So I like hearing stuff like that.
I know for me, my favorite episode actually was an episode I wasn't on or interviewing. I was
look at that.
Yeah, because the thing is, because from the production side, listen to every episode, even though I'm not going to be on an episode or not. But my favorite one was Queen's episode.
Oh, Queen's!
I had a lot of fun with that one. That was the one. We talked for 2 hours.
Yes. And the thing about that episode that I liked, it was the longest episode, but it seemed like that one probably had the most energy in it. And that sounds kind of strange to think about that with an episode, because usually with long episodes, especially our podcast, because we started out thinking we were going to be short form.
30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes.
Less than 30 minutes. Yeah, that worked out.
Yeah. So we kind of evolved into long form. And that was kind of, that was the start of it. But it was so much energy in the conversation. It was fun, but it was very informative. And that's the whole goal of what, we try to do with our podcast and the conversations. That was my favorite. Now I like all the episodes, but that was clearly my favorite.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense because I mean, you could tell it was the passion that she was putting into the product that she was creating, and like you said, it's nice that we have this little 60 minutes format set up where we can have different folks come in for different reasons. And like Mike, your connection to her and that situation, it made that such a smooth conversation, made it real. Like I said, genuine. Even though we weren't in the same room, everybody was relaxed. They were honest and truthful about what we were talking about. And so it allowed for a great conversation and good interaction. And so I enjoyed that a lot. I'm telling you, man, another one that I really liked, and I know we had to follow up with this in season 2. It was hard to do this season. There's a lot of stuff going on specific for me. And I have to fix this too, man. My laptop's jacked up. So I got to get a new computer today. This is sad. It's on its last legs. But Crush Rush. That was an excellent interview, and we must follow up about that, doing the new basically from our side, because I know that will be something that we can use as a way to keep contact with our audience throughout the week, and when we do not quote unquote have episodes, especially because we're about to go into the fall and it's going to be a little different dealing with holidays and etc. So that'll be a nice way to keep in contact with them. But yeah, Crush, excellent resource, man. Excellent dude out here in the city. And we do have to keep in contact with him moving forward. Most definitely. Another thing that I was looking at was our balance that we had this year between male and female quote unquote guests. I think we did an excellent job with that. How do you all feel? That was
something that Skip set down very early, was that he wanted it to be equal and even and not have this just become a bro fest. Because it very easily could. A lot of podcasts do.
Yeah.
But if you're really trying to represent a culture or a whole like cross section of how people are talking about and experiencing the world right now, you really have to get that diversity in there. Mm-hmm. And I think that was. Yeah.
We need a round of applause for Skip, please.
Yeah. Thank you. No, but you know what?
Why did you do that, Kev? Like, where did you get that impetus to say this has to be something that's done? I remember from where I would think I've seen him do this before, but.
No, you know where a lot of this comes from. And a lot of this is just from an experience that I had just from being in just the local arts, I guess, or creative scene here in Columbia. Even just from like let's just say even specifically just a hip hop perspective. A lot of times you'll have certain events. It's all guys, all a certain age, all a certain demographic going to the same event, same things, or it would just be just female oriented, in the same demographic, same place. It's cool that you can get people together, to have a good time, but it's more important for you to be able to get people from all different walks of life. And so one of the things we learned, and that's, like I said, one of the things that I got it from was just, and I will tell you this, and even Mike can attest to it a little bit, just experiences we had, when we were in college, when me and my brother were in college, when we used to do like house parties and stuff, that was one of the things we used to always really be big about, was we were like, we just don't want to get this group of people, or we don't want to just get that group of people. We want to try to do something where we kind of bring everybody in together to hang out. Because who's to say, only you can hang out with these type of people or that type of people, they can't all vibe with each other. Yep. And that's just always been a continuation of that. And so even when we did things like even moving forward, like things and projects such as like when we did BeatCon and we were doing the beat battles, that was something that was always very important to me. That's one of the purposes why, that was one of the reasons why I always thought it was important to build relationships, with people who I might not have traditionally come across in the scene that I might have been particularly in, and to reach out. And that's, and that's just, and essentially this is just a continuation of that. That's all.
Yeah,
that's good.
And that's one of the things that you pitched to me when we were first talking about this, was that you wanted to kind of create that atmosphere that we had when we were in school, where you'd end up on the back porch at a party. And me personally, I always wanted to be on the back porch. Like I didn't want to be in the room where everybody was at. I wanted to sneak off with the smokers and sit on the back porch, because that's where the real conversations happen, because you can hear each other.
Yes, exactly.
That's true. That's true.
Right. Yeah.
That's real. That's real. That's real.
And you pitched it to me that you wanted this podcast to be like that kind of conversation where, you find somebody and you start talking, you're like, wait a minute, you do Okinawan style karate? I didn't know that. Not necessarily the things that we know these people for, but all of these other aspects that go into their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's really important. And that's something that doesn't happen a whole lot.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
I appreciate that we all have our own connections throughout the area, Columbia, and then when we come together, we can just all join forces. I love that.
It does. Oh man, you're on line. It brings a different funk to the stew, because I know this stew is not like any other stew I've heard or listened to around town, or even in national brands. I haven't heard things like this. This is different. This is very unique, because, like I said, it's not that It's not that we're all working together in the same field. It's not that we see each other every single day or anything like that. But when we come together, we do click. That's what I was saying at the beginning. We have pretty good chemistry, especially from having to work from a distance like this over this time. I think we done an excellent job with that.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you guys think we could work on to, like, be better for next season?
Man, I'm going to tell you, it's just I know for me, I was waiting for this one. I know I want to work on making sure I'm doing a lot of the side stuff that goes along with the show. And I know part of that is just doing it and feeling confident in doing some of that stuff. Because I know I had to moving back here from Charleston. I've had to reacclimate myself to the area, et cetera, the people and where things are, how things are running. But as I'm getting more comfortable with it again, I'll feel that I'll be more to jump out in the forefront and do certain things, especially when it comes to pushing the brand forward, just learning how to use my little link tree and stuff like that correctly, making sure that I'm putting out little mixes to go along with the episodes, and then also contacting people that we are going to talk to and start building that networking with myself, because you all have such a good and strong networking system up here. It's amazing, like the different types of people that we have access to. I'm telling you, man, I have not seen, like I said, I'll say this again, I have not seen a podcast like this where it's this varied of the people that we're talking to. And it's not that very far from each other, but I'm not gonna lie, most of these people, we wouldn't put them in the same rooms together.
Right.
Shoot, I would. I'm all to the party, man.
I'm gonna call Mike the controversy.
Yeah. The controversy.
Well, that's where everything happens, and that that's where you actually like learn what you actually think and how you view the world. Because if you're not, then you're just accepting what somebody else did, and you're going along with it. And you're saying, "Oh, well, I believe this because I'm part of this group, and that's what we believe." And we're doing this horribly right now as a society with politics. Yeah. It's like you are essentially born into your political party. If your parents are Republican, you are probably going to be a Republican, and that's not a democracy. That's like it's
called sectarianism.
Well, kind of, if it's religious based.
But it is.
It's almost more like feudalism kind of thing. Like you are behooving to this lord who is over this part. No, seriously, man. Like
I could give you the feudalism argument because you're right. Feudalism was a big thing from the college. It was a big thing.
But you belong to that group of people, and you only used those coins that had that person's face on it. That's the whole reason we got coins. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you left the area where their face meant something, then that money wasn't worth anything.
Nothing.
Yeah. Very, very little of it was actual gold or silver. They was passing around copper coins and crap.
Exactly. That's why we had to have passwords so you could get from place to place.
Yeah. Yeah. And golden tablets to make them open the gates and stuff.
Come on. I'm not like that anymore.
I mean, is it? I just had to get another driver's license. I just had to get another driver's license because some of the states don't like the way ours was.
That's true. Yeah. Some of that stuff has never changed. It's just evolved.
But one of the things I enjoyed very much about this season is I loved listening to everyone interview. And everyone pair up and interview, because it was great because everybody essentially got to pair off and to do interviews as a team, at least 1 or 2 episodes. And I think that was and it's cool because you got to see everybody's style too when they work with each other. Like, for example, where you and Tamaya, right? You guys have a particular style when it comes to interviewing together, whereas me and Mike, we have a totally different style when it comes to interviewing. And it was just like seeing like the production and then just seeing like how the questions are posed and like the response and the feedback and how the conversation moves along. That was the most interesting thing. And that just shows just amazing versatility on our part as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what
we the shit. We're
trying anyway. We trying.
Yeah, we look like the bootleg Voltron. We got a little Voltron going on. Yeah, it's cool. That is cool. I see what you're saying, Kevin.
Because nobody does that. Because the thing is, I sit around and I listen to podcasts all day long. Like, it doesn't matter if it's local. It doesn't matter if it's national. I'm always listening to podcasts and I'm always listening to the style. And that's the unique thing about us is not only the preparation part is a big thing, because I think we do a really good job when it comes to preparing, because sometimes you'll have podcasts where it's more just, we're going to just talk specifically about what our guest is about or what the guest wants to talk about. And if it's a podcast about music, we're just going to talk to artists or people relevant to music. Or if it's a podcast about philosophy, right? We're just going to talk to different philosophers and stuff, right? Just about thought, right? So but with us, we
think
talk
very deeply.
Yeah.
Very deeply.
It's a KRS-One reference.
And that's the thing. So it's like I go from, on a daily basis, I go from listening to, like you said, that deep thought, the thought process thing, to listen to people like, my album about to drop. I'm working on this for a while, blah, blah, blah. And that's what I do on a daily basis. So no podcast is too big for me or is it too small for me? I just listen and I just try to learn. And the thing which is so neat about ours is we kind of operate in our own little space and groove. And like I said, I love doing this. And then most importantly, I know for me, especially, it was really important to work with you three from a personal perspective, because when it comes to creativity for me, you guys are probably out of like the past, about the past 5-10 years, you guys are probably like the three people I've worked the closest with on a creative basis and stuff. So it was very important to, like I said, to get you guys to work on this with me. And I'm definitely appreciative of that. And like I said, I think we're going to do some dope things moving forward.
I think so too.
Kev, too, that little bit of background for everybody, but when I guess some of my friends started wanting to rap, and I was like, well, first we recorded some things over other people's beats. And then I was like, wait a second, we can figure out some beats. And then I heard there's this kid living, right across the way that this making beats too. And so we went and knocked on your door.
I remember that. And this one came to the door looking like Panama Jack.
Yeah, this is for real. Y'all
and the straw fedora on, all that. Yep. Came out the door. Hey. And then you just happened to live in Derek's old apartment.
Yep. Isn't that funny?
I snuck out of your bedroom window so many times when I was growing up before you even moved into town.
Yeah, I know. You told me that.
Yep. And that's why your closet messed up too, is because David that closet door. We were playing wrestling.
I remember getting that story. Because that thing was so jacked. I was like, why is this thing not working?
Oh, man, Damien speared me through the closet door because we were playing a wrestling game. We got mad, and I nunchucked him in the head with the controller, and he speared me. Testosterone is one hell of a drug to teenagers. I just want y'all to all remember that as we head into parents, especially as your male children start hitting that puberty, they're gonna go crazy.
Oh, they're just trying to hurt themselves and
hurt everybody. That's what we do. But anyway, I guess what I was going with that was y'all realize that was 20 years ago now.
Damn.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I realized that too. I was putting that together too. I was thinking about that just with you guys. I was like, dog, I've known them for over like most of my life now.
Right. I've known this person 20 years. And you're like, damn, y'all.
That's more than half my life. Yeah.
Now we get to that point.
But yeah, of course, everybody knows what and what. Everybody knows how I know Anwar. I've known Anwar since he came home from the hospital.
He hit me in the face, y'all.
True story.
Mutual origins.
Yeah, mutual origins.
You guys don't look anything alike to me. When you said you were brothers, I did not believe you.
That's my brother. Yeah, that's my brother.
We'll take it. We used to look too much alike. We used to favor each other hard.
Yeah, my parents, they used to dress us up in not similar outfits, but they would buy the same style shirt, but it'd be slightly different colors. Yeah. And we used to hate that shit. Oh my gosh, we would hate that.
Y'all twins? No, we ain't twins.
No, not really. They just bought us the same shirt.
Exactly.
Oh man, we hated that. Gosh. But and then as far as Tamaya, it was very interesting how I met you, Tamaya, how we crossed paths.
Yeah, you was just like, let's do some creative stuff. And I'm like, okay, let's do
it. Because I met you guys, as a matter of fact, I think no, it was before BeatCon. This is the interesting thing. I met you guys through Cole Connor. And so let me tell you this story. So what I was still, I guess I still make beats and I still produce now, but I was working with Cole on a project. And we're doing some beats and some tracks. So it's a project that him and Hero were trying to do or work on. But at the same time, I think Cole was starting his podcast and he was doing interviews and he was interviewing Sylvia at his house when he stayed up in Columbia. And I remember I was stopping by because that was when y'all had the clothing line, the fly sweatshirts.
Yeah,
exactly. And so, he was interviewing her, and then they were having a conversation, and then that's why I stopped when I was chatting, and then that's what he was telling me a little bit about the stuff that y'all did, and of course during the conversation she was explaining everything. And when it came down to BeatCon stuff, the idea was we always want for years, even before I met Eric, I've always wanted to work with people on doing a beat battle because we saw that when the beat battles were done back in the day when we were participating in them, it was one of the few times at Columbia where you would bring in these different tribes of people across the hip hop community together and they would all get along, they would all interact and get along with each other. And so we always thought, it was always like, that'd be something really dope to recreate. So the guys that originally did it, Nonstop Hip Hop Live, now they start doing Love, Peace, and Hip Hop. So they moved on to that. And so they didn't necessarily have the time, or they didn't seem at the time wanting to put their effort and resources and do the beat battle, which is understandable because Love, Peace, and Hip Hop is a huge thing.
Right.
Exactly.
Wait, so all of that started with Shakis and them?
Yeah, that's
the original beat battle, original beat con. Well, it wasn't beat con, it was just beat battle. Okay.
Yeah, because it's Nonstop Hip Hop Live, Beat Street
Beat
battle.
The first ones that I came to, that's where Shakis and them were doing them.
I remember him seeing it, but I just thought it was part of the radio relationship or whatever. But they started that. That's awesome.
They started all that. As a matter of fact,
they grew it from the ground up. It's a big event.
Yeah. And so that's what happened. And so when they stopped doing it, it was just like, I just felt like, man, this is something they should continue to do. And so for years, I would bring up this idea with different people I knew and whatnot. And the concept was, I was like, you got to do the beat battle, bring it back, but you got to have a content piece to it. You got to be able to tell videos. You need the story, you need the imagery and stuff, because that's going to get people to buy into it. But then also you got to be able to speak to a larger audience. You got to be able to connect with a larger audience. Like, I'm not the expert of everybody that knows everything in Columbia or about different things hip hop wise in the city. To bring people together, or even different perspectives. And so one of the things I knew that was important was, when it came to putting together a team, it couldn't just be all guys, and it couldn't just be people who listen to this type of hip hop or that type of music or into this type of thing. And that's what essentially came. That was the process in putting together the group and the team that we had when we started doing the beat battles. And it was like, and when I met Eric, that was like a catalyst for the justification for it, because you saw when he was doing the producer session, we did the producer session over in Lexington at Kingsley spot, Kingpin spot. The Turntable City. That's when it.
Shout out to our sponsor, Turntable City.
Shout out, man. Big shout out, Turntable City, man. Big shout out to Kingpin VOV. And the funny thing about it was when I approached Eric, I was like, "Hey, man, this is something that could be done. This is a cool thing." And like I said, when I was like, I already know this group of people who want, who would be interested in working with us. And you remember that time we just started working at the library. We would meet at the library and we started planning. And that's how we did it. And that's how all that stuff got started. But if it wasn't now the connector with that situation was Angel. Was Louis Sky, because he was the one. Yeah, he was the one who told me about the producer session in the first place, because I didn't know anything about it going on or happening.
Man,
that's how it all got started. It's neat how those things work, though, man. And it's just different pieces.
That's another cat we've known for 20 plus years.
Say it again, bro. Oh my Lord,
we go back with Louis Sky a long damn ways.
Yep. Very long, man. I met and I know when I was down there in Charleston, that's who we used to run around going from club to club DJ.
Right. Because he's down to do it too.
Yeah, man. That was ride or die. It did not matter. The situation, place, location, he'll have you back. Boy, we used to go to some cool places. We used to have fun down there.
Yeah, I know. Well,
man, every time I went down there to visit y'all, I had a blast. I might not remember half of it, but man, that was back in the day.
Oh, let me tell this story. Let me tell this story to my. Let me tell this story to my.
So she can laugh at us.
I'm gonna tell you a story about Mike. I'm gonna tell you what Mike did back in the day.
Oh God, which one was this?
Oh man, you know about to tell the story about you being restricted ambulatory. Yeah,
that one's fine. That one's fine. Yeah, that's not too bad.
Go ahead.
All right. So back in the day when we were in school at the College of Charleston, so
I was at USC.
You were at USC.
Yep.
So they would Mike and then our friends like Debo, Jason, and would come down. I guess Trell at the time too, because he was still it.
I miss that kid. Shout out to T-Lo. Where you at, bro?
Shout out Trell. I don't know, man. I remember the last time I saw him. Go ahead.
But they would come down on the weekends, right? So they would come down on the weekends to come hang out because obviously it wasn't popping off in Columbia at that time. Not like that. But like all the college stuff used to go on down at COC, right? So Mike and Doug would come down on the weekends. They'd crash with us or whatnot. We'd go hang out. We would party and stuff. And I forgot what was going on that weekend, but I think it was
we were throwing a house party. It was you and Joe Stroh were throwing a house party, and we were going to that liquor store and getting Burnett's and pouring it through charcoal filters on a Brita pitcher, and we pour it through 3 times, and then it's triple filtered, and we poured it back in a Grey Goose bottle, and then charging people for cups. And
we did. That's exactly what happened.
Yep. And everybody's sitting there taking shots of this Burnett's, talking about, it's so smooth. We're maybe 20 years old. Maybe. Let's just not.
Don't know any better.
They don't know shit.
Any better.
But they were drinking that liquor, though.
Oh, man. They were so hungover. Shit, I knew, and I was still drinking it.
Hurting.
Man, I just remember, hold up, because the thing is, when we tell these stories, and this is the issue we have, this is a side note, the issue we have, we always tell these stories, because every couple months or so, when we get together, we always tell these stories, but different parts of stories always get mixed in with other parts, but we still keep going on telling the story. Yeah. So the story I was going to tell was the one when you were chasing, because I can't say that now, because it wasn't like you were necessarily, because this is before B2. You weren't chasing the girl. Let me just make that clear.
You got to be clear.
You got to be clear.
That night was after my broke leg. Those were 2 separate nights.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
I had been in a car accident. I had a broke leg, and I was on crutches. And that's Joe's apartment. And for those who have never partied in Charleston, y'all got to understand that all of this college housing stuff is like 200-year-old houses. If you spill a drink on the floor, it will drip through to the apartment below you because that's what it is.
Yes.
So we're partying in this place, and I'm on crutches, and I'm like, I'm going in.
He is literally getting it in on crutches.
I'm straight up like shooting Everclear and blowing fireballs off the porch and like all of that crazy shit that you hear about white people doing. That was what I was doing.
Oh Lord, on crutches. Oh, that was funny. My fault. That was hilarious.
At some point, I spilled an entire cup of like Everclear and something down in the top of my cast. So there's straight alcohol reeking out of my cast. And I had to cut the damn thing off because that was after I went back home. But I was like, God, it just smelled like Everclear. I go home and my parents are like, what the fuck?
So I gotta cut this off. This ain't working no more.
Man, we used to Man, I remember that. And I remember, was that the same time? Because, like you said, because it's weird with those stories. Because it's like, essentially, it's like a collection.
That's where we were over. We were on on the Montague side, like Montague Street, somewhere over there, like that near the College of Charleston.
Yeah.
Remember that little house, Kevin? Because that's the one where
long skinny house.
I got something spilled on my laptop that night, too. Yeah, that's why I remember that night so well, because I remember everything was getting ratchet. It was...
Will was down there getting crunk as hell, about to fight everybody.
Y'all was wild.
Oh yeah,
We were stupid wild.
Stupid.
And we were good kids. Like we ain't screw nobody over. We drank when we weren't supposed to, and we smoked when we wasn't supposed to. But
that's it. Everything else was cool. Everything else was cool. We weren't doing no harm to anybody else. We were looking stupid though. We were looking stupid. We knew no better.
Yeah, Tamai, that PWI experience is very different.
Yeah,
it's very different. But yeah,
that's how we know each other. We know each other for a long period of time. That's why this show is the way it is, because we know each other from. We didn't just get together to do this podcast,
right?
Which is what's cool about it.
We've had years of those like 2 a.m. conversations about life, the universe, and how it all fits together, and that. That singular, that Atman, we've done that.
We've done that.
We already know where we all on that.
Yeah, it's just public now.
Yeah.
That's just public. That's what's cool about it. But one of the coolest things about the team was bringing and getting Tamaya to join us crazy people over here talking about these crazy stories. I know she's listening right now like, who the heck did I get with? Who are these people?
Y'all I like to pick your brains, especially Mike and his wife Mila. Y'all
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite episodes is one of the two that my wife was on.
Yeah, you better thank you for letting us borrow usage of her during the episodes.
Look, aside from her just being my wife, like she is legit professional with mental health. Like she really goes in and she deals with kids all day, every day, going through everything that they're going through. And as woke as we were in our like late teens and 20s and stuff, like these kids are figuring out that the whole system of everything is bullshit when they're in middle school.
Yeah.
And then what do you do with that? Do you just like
do you let
go along with it and try to make money? Yeah. Or what's happening now is suicide rates are going through the roof because they're looking at a world where everything is built on stuff that doesn't actually matter. And then like, what are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
There's no real foundation. Like you're working your life to build up something that doesn't really exist.
Well,
that is
you just gotta sidestep it and build the thing that should exist and fuck what does exist already.
That's why I like the fact that I'm not gonna lie. I told people sometimes we got kind of lucky we on that cusp because I don't want to be all the way on the other side or on this new generation. I feel bad for that new generation because they haven't been given proper tools to cope with some of this stuff. That's why Mila is so important because she has to giving them coping tools and teach them ways to properly deal with that stuff. That's our job, though. That's going to be our job for this. You got to
think about the boomers, though. Like the boomers, all of, like that generation, their parents, mostly their fathers, but they were fighting in a war.
Yeah.
So you come back and you look at all these people that came up in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, like they like emotional coping skills, talking about emotions. That was like not a thing. Not only did it not exist, but if you talked about it, that was some weakling stuff and you were just ostracized instantly. So now even the fact that they're like, we have terminology. That we can talk about the fact that something bothers us and like that's a huge step. Mm-hmm. You got to have these words to be able to use those technologies of existence.
It makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. And that's yeah, it has to, man. I know that's one reason why I like that we had those discussions on our podcast, especially for us being a quote unquote a millennial hip hop, millennial adulting podcast. This is stuff we don't normally get to talk about in our quote unquote the culture, as they call it. The culture don't like talking about these things. We don't handle these things well based out of, fear of the unknown. And also, when you fear of the unknown and then you don't want to be embarrassed for showing weakness.
This hyper masculinity idea that you never show weakness.
Oh gosh, our culture's horrible about that thing. They don't even let women show weakness no more. Especially women you can show zero weakness. Matter of fact, tell me if I'm correct on this. I need to check this to make sure I'm not lying. Aren't women being allowed to be conscribed into the army now?
Not
bring them in, have them sign up for the draft.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do selective service. I don't know if it passed, but that was definitely something that was coming up. I have to look, man. I've been so absent on so much of this news because fuck it.
this fake news, like you said.
Yeah, like you can't even mess with that.
But there was also a point in my life when I thought that us knowing what was going on could help us.
And
that there were things that we could do, but as soon as, and I don't mean to be negative or pessimistic, because I really do think that we can change the world, but it's through interactions with people, not so much trying to change the giant, massive systems that have ruled us for thousands of years. Like, I don't know that that's what I want to take on. I don't want to take on a family that's had gold back before there was,
Yeah. I don't know if I want that. I don't want that fight.
I don't want to fight y'all lizard people.
No,
y'all have that.
No. I can't have that one. No, I believe you on that. I believe you on that one because I like how you said that, because the issue I tell people all the time, it's not trying to stop them from being them. It's just making sure that there's no one else to do it with them. Meaning, like, if you get all the regular folk just to be doing our own thing, they don't have anybody to pay. They just got to sit up at their little expensive places by themselves and, deal with themselves. They ain't going to have no help because they can't do anything without people.
Labor is always the resource.
Yes. Come on, bro. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If you want to do something that takes your whole life to do it, that's a huge, dedication. But say you want to do something that takes more than your whole life. Well, now I got to go and talk to another person and convince them that what's important to them is not important, and they need to switch that over and do what's important to me. And on a very fundamental level, like, that is mind control. I'm taking an idea in my consciousness and I'm using words, magic words, to make your consciousness know what I'm thinking and to agree with that. And that's kind of that power thing for forever. Has been like, get other people to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah, you know what I got to give people credit for? And with that being said, I really got to give credit to people who are artists, artisans, and creatives, like full time. Mm-hmm. Because you think about it, there's so many forces like that are, constantly being thrown at those individuals on a daily basis. And then just for them to have that discipline in itself, especially for things that from societal standpoint are usually attributed to having lack of discipline. Like, people don't think about people who do, who are in the creative work or in arts as those that have discipline. It's usually those other things, like you said, that very regimented, that very structured. You go here, you go over here and I need you to do X, Y, and Z for me, and I will compensate you for that. And like I said, and so I just have a whole different respect for those people and stuff, like the Tamayas of the world and whatnot.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You better know it. You get them flowers, because it takes actual bravery, because you don't have a system or machine backing you. I tell people all the time, man, this stuff that you see, a lot of stuff that's going on that we witness and watch every day, it's set because somebody moved money somewhere to allow for people to be in specific positions at specific times to be waiting for things to happen. When someone has to create all that stuff from scratch themselves, make a movement, have people follow them so that they can see what they've been working on, and it be some kind of creative based solution or whatever it may be, that's way more valuable than somebody who has somebody throwing millions of dollars in order to get people to pay attention to this quote unquote star that they created over here. It's a totally different value system, man. I value that, like Kevin said, I value that way more than that the money back stuff. It's totally different. There's no kind of comparison.
Well, if you're making something with go ahead.
I really just want creatives to be comfortable creating their own content. Like, don't be scared just because of what society's doing or what you see on TikTok. You don't have to follow that same wave. Like, each individual is authentic. So find your authentic self through creativity. So that's why I kind of just put everything out there.
What's it going to take to protect creatives? Because that's what we're about to start seeing. Like, creators are going to have to start being able to protect themselves, because they got this thing called cancel culture, and they can get rid of you. And they look, here's the craziest thing about it. They can get rid of you with people who aren't even your fan base, meaning they don't have to like you. They've never even seen you before in their life. If they can put you out there in front of certain people in specific ways, then they can create enough of a cavalcade just to take you down.
Okay,
which is weird.
Boycotts have been around for forever. in y'all's mind, what is the difference between the old school model of boycotting and the cancel culture? Because I understand why certain organizations get canceled, but the other part of it is that the more that we're just automatically canceling everybody that disagrees with us, then the less dialogue there is and the less room to work on that there is. Yes. I ain't saying we should give people a pass, especially if they got money or they have power over people. No, you can't just go back to telling every audition that you have that they're going to have sex with you or you're not going to hire them. Like that. No, that's fucked up. You don't do that.
But I think the issue is when it comes to cancel culture, I think the problem that arises is usually, let's just say let's just use and what, for example, let's just say he's artist A, right? Artist A makes B statement, right? And I don't agree with B statement. Right. Like for me, for my worldview, right. I feel like B statement is very harmful and it's disrespectful and it causes harm, just causes harm. I think it's something that needs to be addressed and B statement should not be made and it needs to be addressed. Right. With cancer culture, you have people who get upset about B statement, but in actuality, they have a whole list, alphabetical list of other things that they want to put in along with B statement. So they're like, yeah, well, I don't like B statement, but I also don't like C, D, E, F, or G. And if I have
those together, even if that person didn't intend to. Right.
Exactly. And I think that's what happens. So it's like, if there's a disagreement on something or we come to general consensus, this is bad. Okay, well, this is bad. This is also bad too. And we also need to do something about this. And we also need to do something about that. And I think what's really interesting about it is it doesn't really solve a problem because all the problems that you feel like you're trying to solve, you're giving those on the opposite side of the spectrum. You're giving them more justification for why they shouldn't support you because of the fact that you tag other things onto it. Because it's not just resolving one problem. Yes. It's a laundry list of things. And I think that's what's happened with our society, especially when it comes to things, when it comes to politics. And I think that's the reason why you see so much stagnation when it comes to getting things done. And just think about, this is funny, the funniest thing. Has anybody seen, this is where I'm going to date myself. And I guess this is because this is like millennials. We're that perfect age. But y'all remember when we were little kids and they had Schoolhouse Rock used to come on ABC?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Y'all remember that. And you remember they talked about, I'm only a bill sitting on Capitol Hill.
Sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
I'm just a bill.
And you remember, right? And what people don't realize is you got a bill, right? But because of the nature of how legislation works, you tag other things onto it, right? In order to get it passed. So let's just say there's a manhole that we need to buy a manhole, right? Or we need to do something where all the manholes are for the sewers are up to date, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. That's something we all need. We don't need old manholes. We don't need sewage coming out, right? But people be like, well, I'm going to throw this bridge in here too, because I need this bridge over here.
That's infrastructure too. That makes sense. Let's just throw it.
And so all of a sudden you add all these different things are added up. They're all added to this bill. So it looks totally different. Like, yeah, you got the manhole thing in here, but you got all these other things. And I think that's the issue that you have politically. So you'll have like a wedge issue, right? You'll have something like abortion, right? Either you're pro-life or you're pro-choice, right? But those people will then attach other things, other issues with that. But it's like, hey, if I'm already on this boat now, it's like I have no choice but to go along with everything else because that's the only way they're. And I think that's what you see a lot now, just with any type of issue that comes aboard. So you see people just kind of like pinning, just like with bills.
They disagree with people for no reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They don't even know what they be agreeing with.
But they recognize the lines that have been set up, because that's the other thing too, is
there have been lines.
Well, but see, we all have this very not everybody. There are people that are very, very, but most people that you interact with have got a good understanding of a lot of gray. A lot of gray area. A lot of people that might do bad things for good reasons, or good people that do bad things for whatever. It's just all over the place. And the number of people that actually want to obliterate the other side is actually very small.
Of course.
But what ends up happening is they set it up in such a way where there's only two sides. And this is, if y'all remember back to, I guess, either logic in college or high school, whatever, debate, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. Debate.
Either or fallacy. You're either with us or against us. Give me liberty or give me death. There are so many more options.
That's
right. Anytime somebody gives you two options, they are trying to fuck you. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember this.
There's so much more out there.
What my man, Keenan Ivory Wayne to say, Kevin? Lesson.
Yes.
Lesson. Think about it.
So right now we get two options. We get Democrat or we get Republican.
Right.
And guess what? If you're black, I know a few black Republicans in my life.
Yeah.
That's because it's very hard to vote for the Republican Party because currently it has kind of made itself a place where racists and bigots can hide out. Even if that's not their agenda, even if a single candidate is saying that they want to do things like, government staying out of my business seems like a great idea. Yeah. I like that idea. But
a lot of people do.
The way it's being applied.
How's it being applied, and why? And why those people why do those people want the government out of their business?
Right. Oh, you're going to tax us less? That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
But then you go and do stuff like, I don't know if y'all have been following this, but there is a huge amount of money coming for education. I think South Carolina is going to get over $1 billion over the next 4 years.
Ooh.
Big money.
Let's see what they're going to do with it.
Well, one of the first things they've done is decide that all of the local school districts can't use this money for any kind of masking stuff. So if we are heading into another...
So convenient.
Right?
Too convenient.
If we are heading into another masking situation, if Delta starts taking off and everybody's got a mask up, especially with these younger kids, because they can't get vaccinated.
No, they can't.
So all their parents can be vaccinated, except for the one kid. And then the whole school can get COVID and it's still spreading rampant unless they go back to masking. But we have that item becoming a politicized thing that either you are against freedom or you're a crazy no-vaxxer. And there's a lot of in between. There's a lot of people that do things for a lot of different reasons. My sister has a history of epilepsy. She cannot get the vaccine because her doctor said don't.
Yeah.
Because it can give you a seizure. Because all vaccines can if you're sensitive in that way.
Exactly.
Now, I think a lot of it comes down to, this is just my theory. So it's not proven or anything like that. So it's not like you fact check it, you gonna find it.
Right.
But I think a lot of it has to do with our mindset as Americans. Because if you notice, we have a really bad disconnect when it comes to cause and effect, especially when it comes to things outside of ourselves. So if it's something that's outside of our family, our social group, or whom we identify with, right? Something can happen. Like, think about it. Let's just look at Columbia, for example, right? Everybody knows all the neighborhoods you have in Columbia, right?
The ones that are left.
Ones that are left, right? All right. And we're talking about Columbia Metropolitan. So I don't mean like just 29201, 29202. I'm not.
We ain't talking about the Summit.
You know how people get, no, that ain't Columbia. I'm not talking about that. Just Columbia Metropolitan area. All right. You have Lexington, you have Faro Road, right? You have Garner's Ferry, you have Shandon, all Casey, West Columbia,
Sand Hill,
right?
Northeast PC, Casey,
right?
Yep.
All right. So the way we look at the world is if something happens in the Summit, right? If something happens in the Summit, right? People will get upset about it, but they'll get upset about it. They'll make their comments on it based upon what they feel is who is out in the summit, what kind of things go on out in the summit, so on and so forth, right? They'll make their statement, but they make that statement feeling as if it has no impact on their lives whatsoever. So if you're in Lexington and you hear about something happening on the summit, well, I'm not surprised that's happening, blah, 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 blah. They'll make their statement about something. You know, it might be questions like stereotypical statement. I'm not going to say what it is, right? But, right. You know, because it could be anything. Mm-hmm. But they make their statement and they move on, but it has no impact on their life. Now, even if you get closer, something can happen in Gilbert, right? People will say what they say, right? And they're still in Lexington, say what they'll say, and they go on about it, right? But they feel they have no connection to it, or they don't feel as if it's going to come and affect them.
Right.
Now, that's the issue we have in this country is whenever we see things happen, it's like, well, it's happening there. It's not going to happen to me. So when the pandemic started happening, right, and they started seeing these people get sick, they're like, well, think about black people. Great example of black people. Oh, we don't be traveling like that. Only white folk getting sick. That ain't us.
Seriously, we don't go to China.
Yeah. Only white folk getting sick, right? Next one, right? Then you had the thing about the cities. Oh, yeah, they only getting sick in Seattle. You know, Seattle, you know,
it's an urban thing. You put too many people in the same place. This is what happens. But we're fine out in the country. It's cool.
Right? That's exactly it. Or if you got somebody, and then when they drop the vaccines, right? When they started dropping the vaccines and people were still getting positive, they're like, see, it don't work anyways. You still got it. Blah, blah, blah. I haven't had it yet. It's not bothering me and my family. And what happens is people who usually end up changing their mind on their view regarding COVID and whether or not they need to get vaccinated or not, or use masks, are people who have been directly impacted by it. So because the thing is with us, we've been conditioned to think we live in a bubble compared to everywhere else in the world in a lot of cases. So if you go to any other country in the world, let's say you go down to Nicaragua, for example. I don't know about the politics down there. You know, I'm just saying. But let's say you have a situation in a village and rioting is happening in a village because of something negative, something with food shortage or whatever, right? It's happening in a particular village, right? The people in the village 5 miles down the road, 10 miles down the road, when they hear about it, they're not going to be like, oh, okay, that's just their village. That's not going to really impact us. They're going to be like, what do we need to do to get ready to prepare? Because this might come to us as well. Or these people might come over here looking for something.
Right. Or if we have excess, we got to send it. It's a community idea.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the thing. Like, we don't think about, we don't see ourselves connected to our fellow citizens. We don't see ourselves connected to this world. Nope. So all these things that happen are always going to be foreign to us unless they directly affect us. So unless somebody is sick as a dog in the hospital or dies, a lot of these people don't care. That's why you see all these numbers going back up, because it's our mentality. It's our mentality is causing the virus.
Individualism.
Yes. And I'm going to go back before I stop. I'm going to go back to something Mike mentioned a couple months ago. And I thought this was one of the smartest things you ever said. Most intelligent things you ever said. But you were like, the thing which is very interesting about this virus, he was like, man, this is probably one of the most dangerous viruses people don't realize. And you broke it down. You were like, the whole thing is this: a virus's whole job is to survive and to replicate. Doesn't necessarily mean that a virus has to kill everybody, because if a virus kills
if it kills them. Yeah.
It kills, right? A virus's job is to replicate. And
y'all all done played Plague Inc., the game. Y'all know how this works.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what he was breaking it down. And he was like, it's perfect, because he was like, he gets people sick, and people go, but it doesn't do it just enough to get people to change their minds, because it's still stuck in their mind.
And you carry it for 2 weeks before you show symptoms? That's designed to spread. And I'm not saying it's some conspiracy stuff, but maybe.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead and get into it.
Go ahead and get him.
No, all right.
This is what this show about.
All right. So when Trump first,
this is your last and final episode.
Shut us down. Yeah, when Trump first started talking about that lab in China, the Wuhan laboratory, I forget the proper name of
research, Wuhan Viral Research Laboratory.
When he started saying that they designed a virus, everybody was like, "Oh hell, here comes some more of that Trump bullshit." I mean, except for the people who are like, "Yes, that's exactly right, because you're our leader." But now it's starting to come out a little bit more that there are people in the scientific community that think that the way that we fight viruses is that we experiment with viruses and fight them before they show up. So we mutate them in a lab, watch them infect animals, come up with the way to fight it. And then when it actually does happen in the wild, we'll know how to do it. That's a very logical yet also asinine idea.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, it is crazy.
And apparently there had been a lot of funding that had been going to that lab for this specific purpose, whereas a lot of the programs that were being in there were saying, no, we're not doing this. But there's some weird shit there that I need somebody who's an actual real journalist to dig in and find out what the hell's going on. But it's quite possible that was a designed virus, not as a bioweapon, but as some kind of scientific experiment, and it got out. And that's and now that it's, very clear that it's crazy freaking contagious, that makes sense. And it happens in labs all the time. Like, this is not like some far-fetched thing. There are people that get infected with flu virus making the flu vaccines. It's just that's not such a big issue.
Mm-hmm. And this is why, like Kevin and I were discussing this earlier this week. This is why now I was telling folks, like, all right, this is what I thought it was from the beginning. That's what I thought it was. As soon as I heard about the thing, I was like, okay, somebody made a mistake and they're working on this. And the reason why I understood this is because I knew that when Obama was in office, he created a task force to deal with this. He also allowed for some of these viruses to be taken out of our viral testing facility that is at Duke.
And the CDC.
Yeah. This is all public knowledge. Just go look it up.
Yeah. This ain't the crazy shit off of Reddit.
Yeah. Like, this is not Reddit. This is on the regular Washington Post. So this is regular stuff. So if you paid attention to what happened, this is where the whole creepy, the quote unquote conspiracy part of it comes in. This is where it gets weird. All of that was fine because technically it was like we gave some bank robbers marked bills so that we could catch them, because it was almost like, I'll put it like this. Our government knew we were dealing with somebody with quote unquote a rogue agent out there. They doing their thing, but they didn't have any proof on them. So they're trying to catch him like Al Capone. You can't catch him for doing what he really does on the side, which is the bad stuff. So we'll catch him for tax evasion. We were going to catch them for something that the UN was going to have to vote against, which was that they were tampering with biological agents to use them to create viral weapons, right? Cool. We had all that stuff set up. But now Trump came in and he destroyed the agency that was prepared and tasked with protecting us from it and making sure that they were following and keeping up. Now, this is where the conspiracy part gets in. This is what I tell you, especially people who are Trumpers.
I mean, that's not even a conspiracy. That's like a stated fact of conservatism. We don't want regulation.
That's my point. But that's why you got to look at it like the quote unquote, the conspiracy part of it is, why would you stop the organization that was scheduled and set up? It had a task to complete a mission. The mission wasn't a quote unquote a public mission, but it was, because you could read about it and see what it was. He stopped that organization right as we found out that what they were doing over there was failing because they had improper ways of holding on to specimens. Simple as their freezers, their refrigerators, etc. They had poor seals on them. They had improper ways to check in and out for decontamination from their facilities. This is all the stuff I read. It's the most boring reading you'll ever do, which is the funny part about it. It's not sexy at all. But when you read it, it looks so simple. It's like, oh, so this dude just came in behind him and made a horrible decision. And we've been dealing with the repercussions of that decision ever since. And they try to clean it up, make it look like the other side did it or whatever it was. But like you said, what he did follow that whole conservatism idea of making sure you had less government regulation. But the government was running this program, meaning it was a task force that was sent out to make sure we could catch somebody doing something we knew they were doing. We just needed proof. And so we marked our stuff. That's why when it came back and it hit back from the shores, they knew what it was. But the organization that was supposed to handle this was no longer around. That hurt my heart. It just wasn't there.
It wasn't that they randomly picked a government agency and were like, oh, we should delete this one. It's not doing anything. Like, when those kind of decisions happen, somebody is lobbying and saying this regulation is affecting our ability to make money, and we need you to remove it because we got to do these things.
Yep.
They don't just do this on principle. It is all money.
Yeah, it's all about business. All business.
And I think that's what people don't understand about a lot of these situations. Like I always tell people, it's not as deep as what you think it is. We give people in power or people who have money way too much credit. Or we make them all seem like they're super evil villain geniuses. And I think conspiracy theories just inflate all that. Yeah. And really that's what it comes down to. Like one of the things that I laugh about talking about COVID and the vaccine in particular is what's going on in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. And particularly last week, there was an article that came out in regards to some comments from Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, very rich, wealthy, powerful man, one of these people, right, that folk would talk about. He's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, right? And he was talking about how with the players, because there's been some backlash even amongst the athletes, that players in the NFL about getting vaccinated because they have their own reservations, which everybody, you have a right to have your reservations in your opinion.
Because we don't trust anybody now.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't trust the government. We can't trust the media. And most of us don't trust our doctors. But then we're going to trust a rando on YouTube or some guys with a podcast. Like,
yeah.
You got to trust somebody.
He's right. You try to figure out who to trust. But yeah, Kevin, continue.
So one of the things he's mentioned was the fact all these players are going to get vaccinated. I'm going to make sure at least X amount percentage of players get vaccinated. And then they asked him why. And literally what he said was, well, we got to get everybody back in here and we got to get these games going.
Yes.
Yep. Simple.
So really, and that made me really think a lot about the vaccine, right? And the purpose why the vaccine came about, or at least in most people's minds. If you don't know the background, you go know the history of mRNA.
Yeah. You got to do your research.
The research that goes into
babies.
Yeah.
It's been going on for such a long time. They've been working on this for such a long time.
1984.
How they create vaccines and stuff, and the processes that they go through. You got to realize a lot of times the motivation is really just an economic motivation. So you got to think about the fact that a lot of these businesses and a lot of these corporations, as a result of COVID, have lost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't they, just a common sense standpoint, if I'm losing a lot of money because of something going on, my whole goal as a businessman is to find out a way to get rid of that problem so I can go back to making money.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's a pretty common sense thing. So that gives you the emphasis on putting those resources into place to get what you need to get created, and particularly the vaccine into people in order for you to get back to business. Because it's not really that you necessarily care about people. You just want to get back to making money.
You just want your money.
Right. That's it. That's honest, right?
We're taught that that's the business mentality, is to switch off these parts of your brain and only think with the logic and the greed.
Yep.
And it's not a natural state. And that's not something that we've done throughout history as a people. Well, some folks have, but not everybody.
Yeah, and that's what I thought about, and that's the whole thing. And that's what made me laugh. And that's what when I heard it, I was like, he finally told the truth on that. They admitted to it. And there's nothing in it.
You know why? One reason too why he was so serious about reading into what his message was. And this is, Kevin, we were talking, I told you, Kevin, we get in football this season, and Cam Newton is not missing any games for the New England Patriots. That messed us up last year. That messed us up. Because, like you said, that's the one thing that keeps us in line, because what they realized is when everything was shut down, all that stuff was down and people were allowed to come out, rates of lawlessness just shot up. Certain things that weren't happening as public as they are now they just started popping up because there was no bread and circus.
Yeah. Well, and you also had pretty much like, I don't know what the actual numbers were, but like most of the part-time employees at most corporations, and then everybody in restaurant and retail, and everybody went home. Everybody got either fired, laid off indefinitely. Like even right now, there's not enough people in the workforce.
And what do you do? What do you do with that? Like, you see what, like, people don't understand. There's a real formula for calculating what you have for workforce to what you can put in, who you can put into the workforce, to who's going to have to go to jail, because they know that these people can't work. So they're either going to go out there and just die from indigency, or they literally, or they're going to probably end up in jail trying to do something illegal if they can't self-sustain. You see what I'm saying? This is a real thing. So they do this with when soldiers come back from war. They try to make sure that there's enough spots and places for them to work at, because they know what happened after Vietnam War was these guys came back. They had nowhere to work, but they had skills. Their skills were stuff that you could use to rob banks, take over armed Brinks trucks and stuff like that. They don't want that to turn the other way. I'm trying to tell you, this year we're going to get some football this season, y'all. We watching football also. I'm going to be at some USC Gamecock football games. I told Kevin, because I got to go get my vaccine now, because like I told Kevin, this is not the same thing we was dealing with before. Now this thing is wild. So you got to get some kind of protection before you get out there. But I know we're going to get that stuff at this fall, because of the fact they need some kind of control on the people.
Well, you saw Japan. We have an Olympics right now, and like,
it's so whack.
There was 11 people inside the bubble that tested positive before they even started, but they were like, "Hey, we didn't put off for a year. We built all this shit. We got to have these games."
I told you, we getting our games this year, y'all.
Yep.
We getting our games.
You know, NFL has always been like the best bet in business. Like, if there's never been an NFL team that's like lost money, even when they suck. They just make money. And they sell it somewhere else, and the city gives them a ton of money, and they make more money. Hell, now we're talking about 2 years without actually having people in the stands. Like, how? They ain't gonna let that happen. Hell no.
You saw what happened with the Super Bowl. Like, they weren't quote unquote really supposed to have that many fans, but they filled that thing up as best as they could. I'm telling you, they're gonna start skirting over those laws.
I ain't watched NFL since Kaepernick.
See what I'm saying? Look, this is what I mean. Like, yo,
NFL. I canceled NFL. Fuck NFL.
Dang, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. I really personally think it's still slavery, so I don't support.
Okay.
Well, see, and that goes into the.
You know what? Actually, I want to hear more about that.
I like this. I like this conversation.
Like, you're on the field killing yourself for the people in the stands. They don't even care about you. They just betting money on you. It's all about money.
That's what I called it, bro. It's a circus for a reason. However, I will tell you this: it's an interesting form of slavery due to the fact that, I'll put it like this: nowadays there's more of a John Teal experience, in the sense that they start them from youth, and they literally raise them to be in these leagues, to do this work, just like they do in Europe.
This is the way you get your education. This is the way that you take yourself and your family to another level. This is how you get rich. This is your way to change your community. This is what they do.
You're a recruiter. Mike.
I've seen it.
Man.
And then what's his name? What's his name at USC that blew out his leg, and then Lattimore? Yeah, man.
Yep.
They screwed him over twice.
They did. They really did.
No more scholarship for you. What the hell?
They really did. And you know what they did with him that was so messed up? That was at the time when they had started the whole process of giving high value players like him some sort of insurance plan, so that if that did happen, they'd be okay. But our backward system didn't have one ready for him. At USC, they had one for Reggie Bush and man, like all those folk coming out at that time, and they still do it now. But they didn't do it for Marcus Lattimore, and that's the whole reason why I, like with other people, explain that you should pay them some kind of quote unquote salary or something back from it, because they are out there putting their bodies on the line.
Put it in a trust.
Yeah.
If you don't want to pay them straight up, put it in a trust.
Put it in a trust.
And don't let them, like once they graduate or whatever, or they blow out a knee, like here, you got something to go and get some certificates from tech, so that you're not just like working at McDonald's after being a superstar.
Exactly. Because that makes zero sense. Because I always talk about this. The value of education has never changed, But the cost, and this is what the different value and cost, totally different things. But the cost of it has exponentially rise since the 1970s, especially since in the 80s with the attack on the university systems being funded by public funds, or specifically state funds in some states. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard, was people come on grown humans, people over the age of 45, and say that, so this was on the sports report. This is what was interesting. And Kareem was sitting on the panel. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was sitting on the panel when they were discussing this, but they had two people fighting against the fact that that these players should not get paid because of the value of the education. And I said, there is no value in that education. You get that education from that university. It doesn't say that you're going to get a job. It doesn't state that you'll be able to have that money back at all. All it does is show somebody improve on a piece of paper, because these aren't certificates we're talking about. These university degrees, and most of them are liberal arts. They're just saying that you know how to think. I know how to do some critical thinking. I can problem solve.
If you're paying for my education with a regular kind of academic scholarship, I get out of class and I take my ass home, or I go to work or whatever.
Say it again.
But now you're getting out of class and you've got to go and put in basically a full-time job in your training.
8 hours. Yes.
Right? And destroying your body at the same time, particularly with football. You are destroying your body.
Those linemen destroying those knees.
Well, and how many people have we seen with traumatic brain injuries that are going through like all kind of stuff later in life?
Everything.
And then you got people complaining about, the helmet changes and stuff. And like, they're trying to keep these kids alive so they don't just kill themselves for your amusement. That is slavery.
That is. No, seriously, what did my man say? Like, you're angry because you can't hit somebody at 35 miles per hour through the chest with your helmet? Bro, you don't need to play that sport. Like, it's a sport. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to leave the game alive. Like, this is the weird thing, almost sense of us becoming more brutal, but we're supposed to be getting better, is we aren't supposed to be looking like the gladiators anymore. We can imitate gladiators, but we shouldn't look just like gladiators. And I think a lot of people are going to have to get that through our head. That's not how it's going to look no more, but still enjoy it. If you don't want to enjoy it, it is up to you. But yeah, there's that's that slave component behind it.
But I think, like you said, I think there's always going to be those types of mores in a society, or those values, especially, and they're always going to kind of repeat themselves in different forms or fashion. It just depends on the era or the time frame that you're in. Like you said, just going back to, you have gladiator days, right? Mm-hmm. Now you have, like you said, you have football, but also you also have boxing. You also have UFC, and then you got to look at, and those are the things people don't talk about, but you got to think about what are the things that surround those types of sports too, and the mentality and the mindset of the people that are involved with those things or who are fans of those things. It's the same thing.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I do think with boxing and MMA and any of the martial art kind of stuff, it's a little bit more of like an individual wanting to do this thing rather than a giant multi-billion-dollar organization going out and finding high school kids and saying, hey, we'll make your life better. Like they don't.
I know it might mean, it's not a farm league yet for UFC. However, you do have, it's funny you put it like that. That's funny. But Dana White, don't say that, because if we put this online, Dana White may hear that. He may start that farm league. He'll be at every high school. I'm sure
they've been thinking about it.
Yo, seriously, because all you'd have to do is go to high schools. Because I know I play high school sports, and being at Lexington, dealing with the wrestlers there, those wrestlers would love to be able to come out of high school and go into training for UFC to be paid.
That's probably half the reason they took wrestling.
Exactly.
You gotta get your groundwork done.
Exactly. So, dang, that's a good business idea, actually, Mike. Don't let that...
Oh, no, it's not a good business idea. It's a way to steal money off of people's soul. That ain't a good business idea.
Don't let Dana White hear that. I'm trying to tell you now, because I never even thought about that. I was like, oh, they really could do that to them UFC. Nah, but yeah.
You have to, like, the University of South Carolina is a very small school compared to some of these big schools. We got a good football team. It ain't the best in the state right now, but it'll come back because we're getting
the other Gamecocks are better than us right now, man.
Anyway,
but
we're still talking about a multi-billion-dollar organization. Like Like,
here's my thing.
What other organizations in the state are moving that kind of money?
There aren't, and that's how you know it's like somebody said. You know what it is, man. You know they had to allow them to keep in some way, shape, or form. And I know people don't like talking about this, makes people uneasy, but they had to keep slavery of some shape or form. You had to allow these families that had generational wealth and power to still have some way of exercising and using that influence and power. Because if not, you create problems. Like, you'll create another situation where you have conflict, and then you got to deal with that conflict.
But then I think, like you said, it all goes back to it's still about that black labor.
Yes, it is. It's about labor.
Yeah, especially. And then it's like,
to be honest, they don't actually care if it's black labor. They just want some kind of labor. And it just happens.
It's free labor.
Yeah, you know,
it's free labor. Like, think about it. Like with college sports, it's essentially free labor.
Yeah, all day, every day, and they don't get taxes on certain things, Kevin. That's the part that kills me.
Yeah.
You can't go out here making that money and run around calling yourself a non-taxable organization. Like, that's ridiculous. It makes
Meanwhile, you're buying up real estate and renting it out to all the coffee shops and juicing companies and all of that crap. But you know.
But then, you know, even with the new thing they have going on with the name, image, and likeness, the thing which is jacked up about that too is, so you have athletes are able to make money profit off of their name, image, and likeness, but nothing's created. It's not equal, meaning if I'm a quarterback, if I'm the star quarterback, or I'm just the highly rated recruit that's coming into a university, of course, I'm going to get more opportunities for making money off my name, image, and likeness, as opposed to somebody that might be a 5th year senior who's barely on the roster.
Yep. And it's going to create competition. It's going to create a weird little, how would you say it? It will create a weird power dynamic within
class system within college sports.
Yes, that's what it's going to be.
A plantation mentality, perhaps.
You say yes. That's what, you're going to have your high-rated Mandingo fighters and warriors versus your low-rated Mandingo fighters and warriors, and each will get different treats and etc. from Master Boss. That's what it looks like gonna happen because they aren't gonna
that's what they do with everything, man. That's been the game plan for like 1,000 years now. Oh, you guys are a unified group. Well, guess what? Some of y'all get special privileges. Now we'll see how long y'all stick together.
Come on. Colonialism 101. You got to do it. Everywhere that colonialism has been used, you separate them by classes. That's why India was real easy to colonize, because they already had a class system.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, it was different. I will say that it was different before the British touched it.
It worked to their advantage, though. It's for instance, like, that's one reason why I don't like class systems or caste systems, because you're creating your own indiscrepancies. However, I understand why they had them, quote unquote, why they had them, because they felt they had to have order, and that was the way that they were getting order.
It was more about that on a spiritual level. At a point in time in the Indian subcontinent, they were energetically tying you to a local deity. And, you know, like particular shrine might only be for the descendants of a particular family. And it was created with that intention in place. And so then when people would start to marry from people who are outside of that, you had to make sure that your gods were going to be working together. And that you weren't going to be marrying somebody that had a deity that was in opposition to yours. And a lot of it also had to do with like a natural instinct that we have within us that, you know, like we are either fighters or workers, or, you know, I mean, now we live in a much more varied culture, and I feel like a lot of us have a lot of these different components, but at different times and different cultures, you might be drawn to be a craftsperson. And there was a whole spiritual set to that. And then there was a whole spiritual set to being a warrior. And originally, I think class systems were about recognizing that and giving you a way to talk about how you fit into that. And then it became something very rigid and genetic, and there was no way to jump from one to another. And then that's when you start seeing it fall apart. And that's kind of when the British touched it. And then they were like, oh, this is great.
Exactly.
There we go.
They ran to town with that.
Well, what I wanted to do, because we kind of do a free form today, but I want to kind of reel it back in just a little bit.
Yeah.
So with season 2, what would you guys like to see us do?
Hell, this is for our viewers too. Y'all need to comment on this.
Yeah, let us know what you'd like to see us do there.
We've been talking about doing some short form social media content, particularly on the gram, on the Insta.
I really like the conversations that me and Jen had. You know, the conversation episode we had where it was just like a freestyle. Mila, I really like that one.
Okay.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, it was a good one.
That was excellent.
Because it was like no stipulations. We just kind of free flowed. And, you know, that way we can just get people more in tuned into wanting to just join in and be like, oh, yeah, let me just hop on live with you guys or something like that, you know?
That would be cool in season 2 if we're able to do some of those live events set up. Now, it will be easier too in the future, and this is what I'm looking for season 2, is just doing things in person and being able to have the opportunity to have folk call in or whatnot like that. That's going to be excellent, just opening up the platform a little bit. And
yeah, we got some new gear, y'all. We got some new gear. We're going to be able to do some live events.
How they going to call in? I'm curious.
Oh, yeah. We had a donation from one of our generous benefactors, Taboo.
Yeah. Thank you,
Shout out to Taboo, friend of the show.
803.
Local recording artist.
Yes, he is.
Wanted to see us be able to do some live stuff. So we're going to take advantage of that. And by the way, if any of y'all out there want to make some contributions or become sponsors for next year or donate equipment if you want to, like if you want to support us anyway, we'll figure it out. Crypto. We'll go ahead.
No, seriously. What's the email address?
Oh, man, the email address is the Hilltop Glove Podcast @gmail.com.
Just send any inquiries to that email, and we will be sure to get back to you in 5 to 10 business days.
Yeah, send us some Doja Cat coins.
You damn Doge.
Oh, Lord.
You follow Elon Musk on that shit if you want to, Bo.
Dude, real talk.
Goodness.
Real talk. I made like $75 off a Dogecoin.
That's not a lot. Oh my
Lord. Penny stocks make a lot of money. They just don't have anything behind them.
Yeah, you gotta wait. Yeah, at the bottom.
Exactly. But yeah, other than I think next season, what I would love to see, I definitely would like to see us do some live stuff, maybe some stuff, even if it's just us. I think our strength is in numbers, and I definitely see an opportunity for us to even do one-on-one interviews with people, even if it might be short form or something that we can do, like video stuff that we could possibly post, not officially, but we can post like through like live feeds and stuff through IG or something. I think that would be cool because,
you know what we need to do?
What?
So, oh man, I meant to tell y'all this, and I meant to tell y'all this off air. But anyway, last Wednesday, I'll go ahead and promote the man, friend of the show, Preach Jacobs.
Yeah,
does a live hip hop trivia from New Brooklyn Tavern on Wednesday nights.
He does.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. And we ought to do that. We ought to go down there with at least some phones.
That would be cool.
Do a little trivia team and do a little live cast of the situation. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't even have to be able to just be some social media stuff because people are doing stuff in Colombia, and I think we need to tell people about it so more people do stuff in Colombia.
Exactly, especially with friends of the show.
Cross market on other platforms more. Season 2.
That sounds like a plan. I like that.
Anything.
Get some crossover community events.
Mm-hmm. Most
events
definitely. I would love to do more community events. Show up to these places. To have some, what's the name too? What's it called? Gear, Kevin. Gear. That's another thing I was thinking about. Making sure that we have our store set up, at least in some way, shape, or form, get that online store set up. Because that would be so cool just to have some gear, even if it's just for us to start off with, just so we can have something for branding, moving around. But
plants get it first.
Yep.
Still got to put that one up. Actually, I got to apologize to everybody. The website is in expert disrepair.
Oh, Lord.
It's just behind. It's not
just behind. It looks good. It looks great. It looks good. It works.
I don't know about great.
It looks good and it works. It's just, get the stuff up. But yeah, then that's fine.
A few months behind. I'm gonna get to that though. I've just been having too much.
Good. It's gonna look great.
Gigs.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the new artwork. I'm looking forward to that. I think that's
right.
Cool.
You've been working on some branding. It's looking good.
So it's more inclusive because I was realizing as the season was going along, especially with you and Tamaya getting involved. I was like, man, everything just has me and Onward's face on it.
Yep. So we're trying to get everybody else's faces on things, but that's gonna make it look better too. But we aren't gonna stay too much longer. I know we have things to do today, places to go, etc. I know I have to go do some hustling and stuff right now, but we just wanted to make sure we wrapped up this season properly, let you know how we were feeling and thinking about the podcast, our guests that we had through the whole season, some of our favorite episodes, just things that we're thinking about just from the conversations that we had, things that were on our minds that we didn't get to talk about and et cetera. We want to get those things out, make sure we had some kind of record of it so we can hold ourselves accountable as well, which is a big thing. But we look forward to season 2. And we're going to take our little summer break just like everybody else does, quote unquote, from doing our show and whatnot. And we will see you all on the other side. Of course, man, everybody stay up, stay peaceful. Want everybody to have a blessed rest of this summer, man. And we will see you for season 2 of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.
That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.